Welcome 7th grade scholars to this explainer on your Modern World History unit. Today, we are stepping right into the shoes of historical investigators. We're going to be focusing on Unit 3, Lesson 5, Modern Times, and specifically diving into your worked practice. What does that mean for you? Well, it means we aren't just going to sit back and read history. We're actually going to actively practice the specific tools, the evidence gathering, and the reasoning it takes to solve the absolute biggest global mysteries of the last century. Let's get into it. Here is a quick look at our roadmap for the unit. 1. Welcome to Modern Times. 2. The Global Conflict Case File. 3. Tools of the Historian. 4. Comparing different perspectives. And finally, number 5, connecting past and present. All right, Section 1, Welcome to Modern Times. So what is the big, central mystery we are actually trying to solve here? It boils down to this. How did conflict and connection shape the modern world? This is your massive overarching case for the next few months. Every single map we look at, every reading, every worked example we do in class, it's all going to tie right back to this intense push and pull between nations working together and nations literally tearing each other apart. To actually solve this mystery, we first need to define the two massive, foundational forces that kind of started the whole thing: imperialism and nationalism. Imperialism is basically all about empires expanding their power and their wealth by taking over other territories. You can think of it as this relentless, high-stakes global land grab. Then you have nationalism, which is this incredibly intense and sometimes pretty aggressive pride in one's own nation. When you mix a bunch of competing empires with that fierce national pride, man, you get a serious recipe for global combustion. Moving right along to Section 2, the Global Conflict Case File. Okay, so this timeline right here maps out your chronological journey from the roots of global conflict straight into the contemporary world. For the first 3 weeks, you're laying down the groundwork, examining exactly how nationalism and imperialism created all this tension. Then, boom, in weeks 4 through 6, that tension explodes into World War I. Weeks 7 through 9 plunge you right into the devastation of World War II. And finally, weeks 10 through 13 explore the huge ideological standoff of the Cold War, which brings us right to the threshold of the contemporary world.
You know, history isn't just some random list of dates you have to memorize. It is a rapid-fire chain reaction. Notice how one event directly triggers the next one. The unresolved issues of imperialism, they tip right over into World War I. Then the incredibly messy conclusion of that war directly knocks down the dominoes leading to World War II. And the way World War II ends, it literally splits the world in half for the Cold War. Your job isn't just memorizing events, it's tracking that cause and effect flowing right between them.
All right, Section 3, Tools of the Historian. As a 7th grade investigator, you can't just guess what happened. You absolutely must use evidence-based reasoning, pulling specific proof directly from the texts. This is Grade 7 Reading Standard 1 for literacy in history. Basically, it means that when you tell me why a conflict started, you have to point back to the source text and say, look right here, in this document, it shows us. You're looking for what's explicitly stated on the page, sure, but you're also making logical inferences. You're reading between the lines to find those hidden motives. These literacy standards actually build into 3 critical, really actionable steps for your worked practice. First up, you read closely for the literal facts. Second, you make a logical inference based on those clues. For example, if a leader is suddenly building a massive navy, they probably aren't just going on a fishing trip, right? You can safely infer they are prepping for war. And third, you cite that specific evidence to completely lock in your argument. And hey, keep in mind, you aren't just going to be reading walls of words. You're going to evaluate content presented visually and quantitatively to gather all the facts. According to the literacy standards, you need to integrate and evaluate information in diverse media. That means you'll be applying these exact same evidence-gathering skills to stuff like historical maps of empires, quantitative charts showing casualty rates, and even propaganda posters designed to sway public opinion. Which brings us to Section 4, Comparing Different Perspectives. A huge part of your task is to analyze how different characters or narrators view the exact same event. You're going to compare primary sources, like say a mud-stained diary from a soldier sitting in the trenches, with secondary sources, like a modern textbook analyzing the broader strategy of the battle. Both are incredibly valuable, but they tell completely different sides of the story. By putting 2 viewpoints side by side like this, you expose hidden biases. And this fulfills Grade 7 Reading Standard 9. In your work practice, you might read an emperor totally justifying a land grab, and then immediately read an account from a local resident whose home was just taken away. Doing this gives you a complete 360-degree view that a single source could literally never provide on its own.
Finally, Section 5. Connecting past and present.
Look, your case files don't just stop in the 1900s, they bring you right up to the contemporary world, linking those historical conflicts to modern global issues. This is your ultimate transfer task. We don't study the Cold War just to know some trivia about the 1960s. We study it to understand global tensions happening right now. We study imperialism to understand modern borders and economic relationships today. You are quite literally learning to use the past as a lens to clearly view the present.
So, the takeaway here is that by the end of this 13-week unit, you will have leveled up your skills to true historian status. You are going to easily analyze global conflicts, decode the powerful forces of imperialism and nationalism, cross-examine differing historical perspectives, and best of all, use those past events to decode the headlines you are seeing in the news today.
I want to leave you with this thought to kick off your investigation. Are you ready to discover the connections that built the modern world? Keep your historian's tools sharp, rely on your evidence, and get ready for an absolutely incredible 13 weeks of discovery.